Hello there. Welcome. Welcome to this webinar on the competence model for oral storytelling called Oral Storytelling in 8 Colors. Welcome for being interested in it. That means that you are maybe a storytelling student who is looking for some inspiration to improve himself. Or maybe you are a storytelling trainer who is looking for some tools to build a curriculum or to make an evaluation system for his students. Or maybe you are a headmaster who is looking for a reference frame to build a training on. Or maybe you are an established storyteller who is just triggered by this new competence model and looking for some new input, some new inspiration. Now, before we start explaining this model, it is very important that you know that a competence model is not a curriculum. A curriculum is a set of learning goals, learning objectives, and it's made for trainings, for setting up trainings. A competence model is a set of competences, and it is a reference frame that can be used in the field, in this case, of storytelling. This is the model we'll discover together, and it has 2 sides. On this side, you can see a set of 40 competences in a plain way. On the other side, you can see the same competences, but with some examples. Those examples are not complete, they are just an indication to inspire you. Before studying this competence model, we first need to understand what competences are. There are countless definitions for competences. What they have in common are that they are a set of related knowledge, skills, and attitudes. After all, it is a combination of knowing, being able, and willing that enables someone to contribute to the realization of something. Competences are always defined in relation to tasks to be performed. The needs of the organization or job form the starting point. You are only truly competent if you can show competence independently in an authentic context. In short, a competence is a cluster of related KSA, knowledge, skills, attitudes, that enables a person to act effectively in a job or situation. I know, I can, I want. The competence model we will study today is, of course, relevant for the field of storytelling. When we will have a look at this model in a minute, you will notice that we formulated 40 competences and we divided them over 8 competence domains or 8 competence areas. And each domain is represented by a color. Let's have a look. Those domains are research, craftsmanship, art, performance, training, applied storytelling, tradition, and entrepreneurship. Each domain is managed by a supervisor. They approach storytelling from a specific angle, from a certain viewpoint. So the different competence domains can be related to different functions of the storyteller. We speak of the researcher, the craftsman, the artist, the performer, the trainer, the applier, the tradition bearer, and the entrepreneur. Let's get acquainted with those supervisors. The researcher is curious and interested. He or she likes to search and research, broaden their horizon, analyze and reflect. The craftsman wants to prepare their material, master their tools or instruments, apply their techniques, and have a way of working. The artist likes to experiment and create from an inner drive. He or she wants to express him or herself in a personal way. When you find it very difficult to understand the difference between the craftsman and the artist, think of a shoemaker. A shoemaker who knows his craft very well, knows his materials, he knows his tools, he knows how to use them, and he also masters a lot of techniques to craft a shoe. He also has a way of working, and because all of that, he will be able to deliver you a good, decent shoe. When you have a shoemaker who also is a bit artistic, he will feel the urge to add his personal touch and maybe even to share a message in the shoes he delivers. I think now of the Louboutin shoes with the red soles. You can recognize them from far. Or the El Naturalista shoes, who contain the message of be aware what you do with nature, because they are inspired on nature. The performer wants to communicate with and move an audience and is confident and prepared to do this. The trainer likes to initiate, train and coach others in their own field of expertise. The applier does not set storytelling as a goal, but uses it as a means to help develop something else. The tradition bearer carries on the oral tradition of a culture or community, keeping it alive and passing it on with respect for the past and the view of the future. The entrepreneur knows how to promote, manage, and develop their business. All those different roles or functions of the storyteller should not be seen separately. I will give you an example. I am a mother, a sister, a child, a partner, a storyteller, a teacher, a neighbor, etc., etc. I am all of that as I am sitting here at the same time. But I don't perform all those functions at the same time. Now, I am a bit of a teacher, and later, in an hour or so, I will be a mother preparing dinner for my children. It's the same with the functions of the storyteller. Sometimes in a process you are more like a researcher, and sometimes you are the performer. The different functions hold hands, they walk together and they set each other in motion. Another example. Last, I was rehearsing and I was experimenting with a new story I want to tell soon. And in the middle of this experimenting, I realized that I didn't know how a wedding dress looked like in the Middle Ages. So while the artist was experimenting, the researcher popped up and he asked the artist, "Shall I look it up now, or will I leave you experimenting and look it up later?" And the artist said to the researcher, "Do it later, because I know you. When you start looking up things on the internet, you will be off for hours." Let's zoom out again. Here they are, the 8 domains, the 8 colors of our playful competence model. Now, maybe looking at it all, you get a bit stressed and you think, but oh my God, I am not a trainer, or oh my God, I'm such a bad entrepreneur. Don't stress. As you can see, we divided the 8 domains in 4 and 4. The 4 first ones are the main domains. Every storyteller should be a bit of a researcher, a craftsman, an artist, a performer, whether you are on an amateur level or on a professional level. But not every storyteller should be a trainer or an applier or a tradition bearer or an entrepreneur. It depends on if you are professional or not, if you are born in a certain tradition or not, if you are interested in it or not. It depends on your choice, your need, your interests. Now let's have a look at the competences. As you can see, every domain has received the same number of competences. This is to prevent someone from thinking one domain is more important than another. There is no hierarchy. It can help to imagine the model is lying flat on a table and all competences are puzzle pieces that can change places. Some competences cover a larger area than others. Several competence boxes cover an entire series of knowledge, skills and attitude, while others contain a few. For example, master body and voice is a very large box. The boxes are created this way because they form a whole in themselves. For example, master body and voice is about mastering instruments you use for storytelling. Every competence is formulated in a way that it can be set at different levels. Let's take a competence from the domain of the researcher. Research background of stories and oral storytelling. A child in primary school can look up from which country their story originates, while a master's student can carry out thorough research into the origin of a story. If you are curious now what each separate competence contains or involves, I invite you to have a look later. You can find the model with one side and the other side with the examples on the FEST website. Now, I want to talk a bit about the benefits of this model. And I made a list and I need my glasses. This model suits art education, which means art and education. It is open enough to connect with art. We all know that art is not measurable, it's not rigid, but it is also at the same time oriented enough to serve education, because education needs to be goal-oriented. This model is universal and general, but it can be made personal and specific. And you can do that by breaking down the general competences into specific competences with learning outcomes and educational suggestions in a curriculum. Hopefully, this model can be embraced by many storytelling traditions, because we are all different, we all have our own insights, and that's why the competences are not specified. Let's take, for example, the competence master body and voice, and let's take the part master body. I know that in some traditions you have to sit on a chair and you cannot move a lot. But in other traditions you can move all over the scene and take the whole place if you like. But whether you are in this tradition or that tradition, you still need to be in your body. This competence model can be applied to many types of oral storytelling training. Initial, continuing, formal, non-formal, from amateur to professional level. It just depends on what competences you focus on And whether you choose just a few competences to work with during a short-term workshop or a lot of competences and competences domains in a long-term training. In this model, we tried to use clear, concrete and active language. That's why most of the competences have a verb to make it active and a noun to make it concrete. For example, master repertoire instead of repertoire. Can you feel the difference? Master repertoire instead of just repertoire. We also try to make it active on the level of the domains, and that's why I like to speak of the craftsman instead of craftsmanship, the researcher instead of research. Can you feel the difference? Besides active language, this model also offers a toolbox filled with active and visual tools like cards to play with, maps to play with, and if you are interested in that, you can find it back on the FEST website. A very important benefit of this model is that it links oral storytelling to many other performing arts, because the main domains, the main areas of the researcher, the craftsman, the artist, and the performer apply to every musician, dancer, actor, and performing artist. What I really like of this model is that it leaves room for the unique path. Yes, some storytellers entered the field of storytelling because maybe for 20 years they collected books with stories, and then at a certain point they thought, well, maybe I also can tell those stories on stage. So they entered the field of storytelling through the domain of the researcher. But some other storytellers, they really had this message that they wanted to share with the world, and they entered the field of storytelling as an artist. And then maybe others, they were training children in language development, and they chose to use stories to do this. So they entered the field of storytelling through the domain of applied storytelling. So you can see, you walk your unique path as a storyteller, and that's brilliant. This last benefit is my favorite one. This model leaves room for the unique you. Because in the end, every storytelling artist will embody another composition and proportion of the different competence domains and competences. So, I hope this model can inspire you, invite you to color your own unique fingerprint. That was it for now. Thank you for watching, thank you for being interested, and hopefully this video and the model will inspire you. And the last thing I want to say is, enjoy your unique path as a unique storyteller. Bye.